Good morning, everyone. I'm Sally Harrison with the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. So glad that everyone's here today, and I'm so appreciative of our speaker this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with a little bio on Larry so you know who he is. Larry Young is business development and a leadership strategist, sought after professional speaker, author, and serial entrepreneur. Larry's company, Boiling Frog Development, works with companies to help them find the sound of their dream client's voice and position their sales and leadership efforts in the center of that target market. He coaches leadership to understand how their business environment has changed and to help them align their sales process with their overall growth strategy. Prior to launching his business, Larry Young gained a reputation as the market resuscitator by growing $400 million business lines from scratch and taking dying markets and bringing them back to life. His focus was on developing leadership, sales, business development process, culture, and community. Larry has been featured on national podcasts, radio interviews, and numerous media outlets. Larry's book, Walk the Sales Plank, is designed to help sales professionals win the clients of their dreams. So we're really excited to have you, Larry. For today's presentation, if everyone could mute your phones, but leave your videos on so we can see you and engage. Please feel free to ask questions by raising the little reaction hand down at the bottom. Just jump in if you want to unmute and ask a question, or use the chat room, and Bob and I will monitor that. And most of all, we want to have a fun morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Larry now, and we're going to have a great day. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for that intro, Sally, and thanks for the value add that Mesa Chamber adds to us as members. And over the last year, giving us as entrepreneurs high quality content. It's very appreciated. And thanks for having me be a piece of that. Yeah, absolutely. So I think everybody can see my screen here. I'll kind of jump into the presentation. Today we want to talk a little bit about virtual image and how it's kind of changed and how we can kind of grow our business, but not really from a social media standpoint. It's really more about what does our image look like when we're on a call. Maybe we're on a nonprofit board, or maybe we're selling for our organization or things of that nature. We want to make sure that we've got the best possible image. So it's December of last year, and a friend of mine, Ned, gives me a call. He's in the sales training world, and he's got a friend of his named Bill, and Bill has inked a deal with a big bank out of the East Coast. It's a $400,000 sales training program. Bill comes down with COVID, hits him hard, decides that he just kind of wants to do something different, basically calls Ned and says, "Merry Christmas, I'm handing you this deal." And so Ned's pretty excited. I mean, this is a brand new opportunity for him. So Ned gives me a call shortly after and relays the story I just told you. And Ned says, "Larry, I can't do it all. Would you want to maybe go in halvesies on this? Would you want to do half?" And I do half. Now, I don't know. I can't see everybody's face on here, but I can tell you for me, $200,000 worth of new bottom line revenue is a game changer for my business. And so, of course, Christmas was sweet. I'm excited. And then, like a lot of us coming through COVID, where our revenues dropped in some cases 50, 60, 70% or more, to think that 2021 could start off that great, I was feeling good. So the steering committee, now Ted has taken the lead on this. And so he talking to the steering committee, they said, "Well, just send us over a couple videos, and then we'll sign the contract next week, and then that way him and I could get started." And so Ted sends him over links to YouTube videos that he had made, some training. And I'm sitting there on my couch Saturday night looking at my phone, and I looked at my wife and I go, "Oh my gosh." I said, "We just lost that deal. I know we just lost it." And my wife says, "Why?" And I said, "Because the videos that Ted sent the bank were pictures of him with his face smashed up against the front. The lighting was bad. The audio was terrible. The background was his basement that was probably renovated in '79, which is not that big a deal. But in the video, the TV is still on. The dogs are walking around, and the food that he was eating watching the football game the night before is still sitting on the counter." That was the end of December. It's now March, and we haven't got a return call, email, or voicemail from that bank. we've lost the deal. So I was telling Bob and Sally this story, and I said, look, I don't want another person to go through what I went through with this. I think someone's on, not on mute. If you can mute your phones real quick, but I don't want anybody to go through this like I did. And we thought this would be a great conversation to have. Our virtual image, now that we're in maybe getting past COVID, virtual is here to stay. And the way in which we present ourselves on these calls can make all the difference. It can be the loss of a big possible deal. So we put this together. I want to share with you today three concepts that we'll roll through. And then I threw in kind of some sales ideas because that's kind of what I do. But I want to talk about building your virtual image, just some basic things, not a high-end dollar amount, but how do you create a virtual image for that sales call? When you're dealing with a key client, how do you reach a prospect? Maybe you're creating videos for your business to try to grow them, or maybe you're on a nonprofit board, that type of thing. How do you grow your business? The second concept I'll share with you is powerful communication. What are the basic things that we can do in order to have a great possible communication virtually and move our clients and our prospects down the selling cycle? And then lastly, I want to share with you powerful influence. Powerful ways to influence. I'm going to take some tips from some great Hall of Fame speakers as well as salespeople. And I'm going to share those with you. So, Sally, does that sound good for the group today?
I think everybody could learn a lot out of this.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dive into this. I thought you all would find this funny. You know, this Stanford did a study, and it was about 5 years ago, and they asked their participants. They said, "Do you like virtual meetings?" To which 70% of them said, "Yes, we do." And then they went on to say, well, what is it that is powerful? And you can see the list, nothing really expansive there, but obviously we know there's no travel, it's more efficient. But I thought the third one was kind of cool for leadership development. What they were saying is that now they could invite more people to a meeting. And so it gave chance for maybe some of your emerging leaders to be involved in calls that naturally they wouldn't have been involved in. And people were more relaxed. Now, here's what I want to do with you all. And I can't see you all. So, Sally, you're going to have to in fact, let's do this in the chat room, because then, Sally, whoever answers this question first, I will mail them a copy of my autographed book. Okay. So the question is this: what do you think in that survey was the number one reason that people like virtual meetings? First answer, Sally, what do you got? Let's see if I can find.
Seth. Seth came in first with no travel.
No travel. Okay. Good answer. Not the number one reason. It's not any of those that are on that list. It's something different. Sorry about that, Seth. So
okay.
Answer again.
Alicia is the second answer with she could wear anything she wants.
Okay. Good answer, but not the right one.
Shane guessed the amount of people.
Another good answer. Nope, not it.
Okay.
What's the thing?
JD says don't have to get dressed up. And Dan's guessing he can stay at home. And Don is happy to wear his slippers.
So I'll give you the answer. And we'll have other chances for books unless you got any other answers coming in, Sally.
Could be from the comfort of my home.
Okay. The number one reason in this study, and again, this is 5 years prior to COVID, but the number one reason people like virtual meetings is they can multitask. 64% of them said that they can multitask in these meetings. So now people still hate meetings. We've got Zoom fatigue because we're going back to back. We're probably having more meetings today than we ever were because naturally it's just easier and they're more ineffective, and virtual is here to stay. And so now that's the challenge we have when we're trying to grow our business. When you're trying to either talk to clients or you're giving your presentation, trying to keep people's attention it's a bit of a challenge. And so the first poll, Sally will pull this up. In fact, this is pretty easy. I think we're going to know how this will probably answer out, but have you ever seen someone multitask or not pay attention on a call? Simple yes or no. So go into the poll and just click, and let's submit just click your answer and click submit. Are they coming in, or Sally?
Yeah, we have 14 who voted out of 16. Awesome. We're waiting for one more.
All right.
If you haven't voted, please do so. And there we go. And the answer is
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be. That's what I thought it'd be, 100%. So we've all seen people do this on the calls. But my question, I got a little pro tip for you. You're all on mute, but if you just hold down your space bar, it actually unmutes you. You can talk, and then when you let off it, it mutes it. So you don't have to try to find that little icon. So here's my next question. You can either shout it out or you can put it in the chat if that works better for you. But what is the worst thing you've ever seen on a call, on a virtual call?
a guy in his boxers. One of our
Guy in
very
his
first calls.
Okay.
It was an attorney.
Okay. So again,
Yoga
just
going on in the background.
Oh no. Was it the participant was doing the yoga?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. What else?
So we've got some things in the chat room. A student went to the restroom. Somebody eating during the meeting.
Yeah,
Sleeping on the call.
Yeah, you see all sorts of them. Sally and I just saw somebody flossing on the call. So what we did is we wanted to give you some, for a little humor, give you some screenshots of some of these people, but unfortunately, legally, we thought we might get into trouble, but we found somebody we didn't think would sue us. So to keep him anonymous, we're going to call him Bob today, okay? So here's some things that we've seen. Obviously, you've got the multitasker that doesn't even care that they're on their phone right while they're on the Zoom call. We've got the, if you can see this, is my thing covering up my screen?
No, we can see it.
Oh, you see it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you've got the side view. Now, I'm sure that's been more popularized, but side view, basically Bob here is telling us that he's going to keep working while he tries to listen. Then we've got this guy, the Bob here. You've probably seen him where he goes to do something. Somebody said yoga or going to the bathroom, something of that nature. Or the classic, maybe they're on their phone and they're walking, and so it's bouncing around, that type of thing. So we've got that. And then we've got the classic sleeper, which is not uncommon to catch Bob in this position, whether it's on Zoom or not. Just kidding. Anyways, Bob was a good sport to do this and whatnot. But these are the things that we're seeing. And what I try to tell people when I'm coaching them and we're thinking about growing our business is we're a year past COVID. We're a year past the beginning of COVID and the start of Zoom. And we have to sometimes, if we want to grow our business or our virtual influence, we have to think about going beyond, the cats walking behind us and that type of thing. And what is the impression that we're giving? This is a busy slide that I'm not going to read, but the gist of this is that it's harder to gain buyers' attention and keep them. As this RAIN group did this survey, they're finding that it's salespeople, when you're trying to grow your business, it's tougher to lead a customer down the path of growth and through the discovery phase and that type of thing to close. And then look at the bottom ones, the buyer challenge. They're saying that 26% of the people believe that sellers don't know how to run a virtual meeting. They don't know how to facilitate. They don't know how to be a very competent listener on a virtual. And these are all causing impacts to those. So let's jump into what I told you we were going to talk about, the concepts here today. The first concept is really your virtual image. Okay, now I believe, folks, in my heart of hearts, that we lost that big bank deal because of our virtual image. Your virtual image is really going to be the signature for you when you're trying to grow your business, where you're trying to create videos, whether they're short ones, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I believe that we lost that. And I believe what that bank said, that I don't think that our sales professionals are going to take these guys serious with the 1970s basement and bad lighting. How are they really going to be engaged? And I believe that's how we lost this. What I want to impress to you on this slide, and one of the takeaways when you leave here today, is that the word distraction is the key. That's the thing that I want you to remember with your virtual image, is to make sure that, one, we get rid of a lot of the distraction. Two, we try to have a little bit better presence than maybe our customers. I can tell you that when you look at we were talking about sales training, when you talk about companies like Sandler and Blount and some of those big ones, I can guarantee when they send a bank of video, they've probably got a big green screen behind them. They've got a plasma, they've got their logos, they're probably standing up and that type of stuff. And then we're standing with Cheetos behind us in our video. And so you can see when we're trying to grow our business, that makes such a big deal, but try to look a little bit better. I want to talk about backgrounds, just to maybe just wave your hands or something. How many of you consistently use some type of virtual background? A number of you, and I see a number of you today. So the thing that a facilitator doesn't want to do is I never want to offend somebody. I'm just going to give my take on it, that you want to be careful on the virtual backgrounds. If when not when we're doing when I'm doing a virtual 501 with the guys, we do all sorts of crazy stuff, right? But when I'm trying to present, we don't want to have something that, again, distraction is the enemy. And so, Sally, I know that you always, what you do well, and I see others here, you do well, is you usually have the Mesa chamber live. You have that view behind you. You have some of the chamber that clearly denotes that that's where you are. I think that is an appropriate use on a sales or an influence call. Where I think we go awry, and where Sally, where someone can go, like, you can see that I'm animated, I'm always moving my hands. And so if I'm losing a hand in that virtual image, or I go back like that and I lose my head, those are all things that are distractions. And so a lot of times we don't think it's that big a deal, but the people, the sellers, that rain group, so they said that they're getting distracted and it's hard to lead them through. And so we want to try to minimize those things. I think you just want to make sure. Now, for me, it's interesting that, because I got to kind of be on my game if I'm going to talk about virtual image, but you'll notice a couple things that I do here, like bookshelf, that's there to, you see my book, I got my handle right on it. I did that good, didn't I, Sally? Right? In reverse.
Nice
Yeah.
job.
So I've got that. Yeah. And the book's here to make me look smarter than I really am, but nevertheless, I do read them. But this is my home office. And then, but behind me, what you really want to make sure on a sales call is that somewhere in there you have your logo. It's a powerful way to influence people if you can have something of your logo. This thing right here, because I speak at conferences and corporate events, that's one of those things, those rollers that you can pull up and they condense and I can carry with me, and usually put them in the lobby of an event that I'm speaking at. But in this case, I kind of put those up. I got another one that has my book. It's the full set of my book, and I'll have those behind me a lot of times. But what it tries to tell people is this is a business call. This is a call that's important. And the thing that I like about this, if you get those, I got those from Market Builder here in Mesa, and they just do a great job. They printed those up for me and they were very affordable. But like tomorrow, I'm going to go do a national podcast and it's going to be recorded. I can just take that with me. So if there's room, I always have that same consistent image of my logo behind there. Another cool quick tip is use your dream clients. If you're on a sales call with them, use their logo if they have one. And I'll give you kind of those types of things. On here where I'm looking at you, or I'm trying to get better at looking at you, I bought a $70 webcam. Gives me a better presence, that type of thing. You don't have to spend a ton of money on this type of stuff. The headset that I got, that was a little spendier, but it allows me, because you'll see here, I'm going to turn. I shouldn't do this, but I've got a big whiteboard up there. And so I can turn that and I can actually go over there and work on the board when I'm doing sales training or helping businesses map out their growth strategies. I can use that board there. And computer notifications, those types of things, make sure those things are turned off. Virtual image is very, very key, that type of thing. And so any questions so far? Again, I should have mentioned, go ahead and ask them as you see them on virtual image. Couple quick thoughts before we move on to the next concept. The lighting that I have up here is a $7 Wally World. It's a desk light that I just have over the other side of my computer to give a little bit. Here's what I want you to think about when you're trying to grow your business, is you wouldn't go to a sales presentation in a ball cap and sit in a dark room to present, would you? And so we have to think about that, because now people can screenshot these things anytime, and our virtual image is out there to be seen. I thought I'd throw these in. I threw these in this morning. I hope you like them. I thought I would just, with each of these, I would just throw in kind of some pro tips, just some things to kind of think about. As I mentioned, have your logo or your dream client's logo. Had I won that deal, the big contract, the plan was to put up a TV behind me that I could have my prospect's logo on there, their logo and my logo sitting on there. So it wouldn't be distracting, but it would denote some type of a partnership. And that would give kind of an influence that would really be kind of cool. Like, hey, we're partnering. Again, that would always be right behind me. If you don't do that, or you don't want to go to that length, take a virtual image of their website. One of the things you can do, like I can't show you now, but I've got like a snippet tool. Most computers do, where you can snip out and copy the screen. You can go onto their website. You can snip that out, that copy of that. You can save it as a file and upload it to Zoom, and you can have their website be your background. Just an idea. Videos on prospects. I know that there's a number of you, Justin, I see that you're in the financial services. I know we had a couple people from like Gateway and then Mountain Era Credit Union. We're going to be on that financial services. I'm teaching a lot of people how to grow their business by using short videos with prospects, where like with this webcam, you can put it on there, and it's got a program where I can cut out like a minute or two video, and I start sending those to prospects in that sequence. So for a lot of you, if you have a business development strategy, which is what I do, is you will have maybe a phone call, a voicemail, an email, and then maybe the second week you hit them with some type of short video, and that software is really easy to use. But that's kind of the new thing, to also to post on your social media asset, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, those types of things. That's where that high quality camera is better than that. So those are just some things that I'm seeing some real gains in people growing their business by prospecting or sending a good customer just a thought, like, hey, I read an article the other day about your industry, and it was this and this, and they're recording them rather than sending those pieces out. So take those for just ideas and things of nature, but virtual image is everything. I better keep moving. Sally, you know me, I can talk way too long. All right, so here, let's answer this one real quick. If you were in a cabin, or if you were in the dark in a cabin and had a match, and you notice that there's a lamp, a candle, and a fireplace, which do you light first? Go ahead and hit your answer. Which one would you light first? So this will be interesting here. So I can't wait to see the results on this one.
Two more.
Yeah, just throw your answer there. Which one would you light first?
One more. There we go.
What are the results? Okay, so we got we got a tie. We got lamp, a candle, fireplace would come in third. Okay, who's brave enough? Hit your space bar to unmute. Who put other? And what would it be that you would light?
Uh-oh, Jay's smiling.
Jay, what do you got?
Not Jay.
Yep. Most of us would light the match first, wouldn't we? So just a little bit of fun. There's a reason I put that one in there. Maybe because we were talking about lighting, but there's a reason that I put this poll in. Let's keep moving. The second concept that I want to share with you is really around creating virtual communication. And there's a couple things that I did and set up for this meeting that I think that you can use, that are useful, that are somewhat underrated. You'll notice that all of you got an agenda and rules beforehand, right? And so you were able to kind of see, okay, here's what we're covering. I got your mind right. This is what we're talking about today. And then I think, Sally, everybody got the bio and the rules, right? So the benefit of that is, if you're talking about your virtual image, your ability to grow your business, powerful communication starts with getting everybody that's going to be on the call getting their mind right. This is what we're going to talk about. For a lot of you, you're on maybe like a nonprofit board. You know that sometimes they can get, well, any board meeting really can kind of get off track very easy. So the power in the agenda is to be able to say to your dream client or your customer, say, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we need to decide today. And Bob, I think Bob or Sally, you sent that out in an email. It didn't have to be anything flashy, did it? It just basically says, so don't take that basic idea, that very simple idea, but there's a lot of power in that. Screen position, you're going to notice something with me, and I want you to think about, a lot of times we see the weirdest screen angles with individuals, and it can be a little bit distracting, right? So there's some where I've seen where it's clear up top, like it's showering. I don't know, it's like God watching down on them or something. I don't know. It's kind of a weird angle. And then of course you got the up the nose look, right? We've probably seen that. We've got the real close, where you look like your face is right there. With virtual influence, what we're finding in sales and we're finding in growing businesses is that we wanted to replicate what it would look like if I was sitting across a conference table from you. So that kind of that distance. This isn't totally perfect, but I've got something that I can go up or down if I wanted to stand, if I wanted to be back, that type of thing. But you'll notice something if you watch the newscast at night, the news, they spend millions of dollars on lighting and makeup and sound. So if they don't have that, what do you call it, like a banner, the story banner on the side, when the person is just talking, they are at eye level. You want to, again, we're trying to replicate what it would be like in a meeting, but you'll notice on this side, there's a third, on this side, there's about a third, and up here, there's about a third. And so it puts me right in the center. A lot of people, when we talk about this, don't think this is such a big deal, but it really is. And I'm going to reiterate it, is that we want to try to make it look like I'm sitting across the table or the desk from you as much as we possibly can. You'll notice that I'm back. I'm animated. I'm a speaker, so I do that kind of stuff. And so I'm always moving my hands around, right? And it's kind of nice when you're back, you can actually see somebody's hands rather than if you're too close, you can't get those gestures from your clients. You can't get those subtle cues unless you're back a little bit, those types of things. And then you'll see talk time, making sure that you're not talking too much. Interruptions are always a key. One of the things that we're doing right now, as that RAIN group survey said, what buyers are struggling with people that are calling on them is moving their minds through, the discovery process or the buying process. And so one interruptions is kind of a killer. Sally, we've seen this, right? Where I think you're done and I start talking and, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. And then we're off course. So a lot of times what's really great is when someone speaks, when you're in a full view, is you're shaking your head. And then I like to try to pause 1, 2, 3 before I talk. And it really cuts down on those and the pauses and affirmations. Okay. Any questions coming in, Sally, at all through the chat? Or anybody just want to chime in?
I don't see any questions, but there might be some. Anybody have anything?
Yeah. If you do, press for your space bar, announce yourself, and just start talking. I'm fine with that. Pro tips for selling. I thought, again, I'd throw these in after that concept this morning, but remember again that you're not just selling, you're facilitating. So the change that we have to get away from is the fact that we are not selling like we would in person because we don't get the verbal cues. So when you're presenting something, an idea, a concept, your service, you got to think of yourself more like a facilitator rather than a salesperson. So I see, again, there's a lot of people. Seth was on here. Seth, I think you're in the real estate world, so you know virtual, right? You got virtual houses you're showing and things of that nature, and you're communicating with your clients and whatnot. But that really, your ability to kind of facilitate a discussion and sell is really, really kind of important.
I don't do a lot of virtual at all, actually.
You don't?
I do commercial real estate, so it's a little different. This is one of the first virtual, one of the maybe 3 out of 5 virtual meetings I've had.
Okay.
But I do a lot of virtual with my other business, which is entertainment.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. Exactly. So those are all opportunities, folks, where again, you got to kind of think about, we can't speak in the same speed that we normally do when we're sitting there face to face, that type of thing. Having backup internet, that's a big thing. That's just kind of a pro tip. This phone is a hot spot. If this would go down inevitably someday, it probably will, that type of thing. There was an interesting study. I'm going to move this over here, that in the this showed that when you're presenting to a client, you actually need 3 times as many slides as you would if you weren't in person. Now, this was according to their study. It was pretty comprehensive. But what they were saying in there is that it's not that you put 3 times the content, it's that you continue to reiterate, because when people are on a virtual call, most clients, if you look back on those other studies, forget stuff about 20 or between 25 to 26 hours after the presentation. So really making sure that we're constantly moving and having that virtual influence. And then if you can share materials in advance. I know that there are a couple of people that represent, I don't know if Jalen's on with you, Mom. I think there was Ion Safety, and then Upward Light Healing Care. I saw you were on there. Obviously, when you're presenting your ideas to maybe donors, or you're trying to create some momentum for something, maybe an initiative in those organizations, this becomes really important, that redundancy in your presentation when you're doing that. There's a lot of power in that and stuff. So, okay.
Hey, Larry, there's a question in the chat room from
Sure.
Justin. He's asking if you would recommend using a third party similar to Ecamm or StreamYard for webinar production.
Yeah, so I don't want to come at anybody like a tech expert, because I'm not. Unfortunately, Justin, I wish I could answer that, and maybe somebody on here has better thoughts to that. For me, I only use 2 simple things when I'm doing that. This Logitech webcam I said I got for $70 came with a program that I can just film it here with the lighting and the setup, and then it allows me to kind of fade things in or add certain things. It's a basic program, but it works for the prospecting piece of it. And then the other that I do, I use quite frequently, is I use YouTube. So I'll just upload the video to YouTube, and I figured out how, if I want to cut material out, that type of thing. And then with YouTube, I can just upload it to my social media, or I'll send a link to a customer and say, hey, I was thinking about you. Take a look at this video I filmed for you. And then I'm sending that to them to create that relationship with them. But before I move on, anybody have any expertise in that, what you would use for software besides what I mentioned?
There's a program called OBS, which is a streaming software. It's really good. It's free. OBS.
Okay.
You just Google OBS. It's really good.
Good. Well, I'm learning today too, so I'll look that up as well. But I just use those basic ones because the prospect or customer relations, what I'm doing is those videos are only just a couple minutes long. I know that there was a couple people that were in, I think Don was on a personal training. Natasha was on in the fitness world. That's kind of a big, a couple of quick videos. Hey, thinking about you, here's an exercise that you might try, however you want to send it out to potential customers or things of that nature are all really good ways to do that. So let's keep moving. Concept 3 is where I want to go with you with this will be kind of fun, because as I said, I'm going to use my experience as a speaker, but also a facilitator and sales. But what I had to try to do, and what I want to teach you on this last concept is that I tried my best to model this through the presentation. So I'm going to ask you all, so go off while we can chat, or you can go off mute. In fact, I will send a book to the first person that can answer this correctly. But what was the first thing that I did on this webinar to start influencing you? What was the first thing I did? Does anybody remember? Sally's shaking her head.
You use dashing actors for your reenactments.
Yeah, dashing maybe not so much, but that was a little deeper into that. That is part of it. But what was the first thing I did? Think back. Don't be afraid to answer.
Dan's in the chat room and said that you greeted him, others, as they entered the webcast.
Yep, that's part of it.
You sent out an agenda before this even started.
Yep, that was good. I did something when we're talking about being on the call. So the agenda is a powerful piece for before. Does anybody remember? Sally, I know you got a ton of my books laying there, so I can't send you one.
No, but I think I know the answer.
Go ahead. If no one's answered, what's the first thing that I did to influence the perspective of the group?
You gave me a really great bio to read.
I gave you a bio. So the key part in this is that the first thing that I did with all of you is I tried to establish third-party credibility, which is better than me doing it myself. So now not every meeting you're on, you can have somebody read a bio, but you can send it out ahead of time. But if you can have somebody read, Sally's the president of the chamber, and she reads it and she says, I'm thankful to have Larry here. That builds credibility right from the get-go. Why is this important? It's not an ego thing. What it is, what you'll see most people facilitate or get on a call, it's like, okay, thanks for having me on. This is Larry, Boiling Frog Development. These are the 10 things I do in my business, and we're here today to do this, and we're going to cover all this. And then here's the rules, right? You know, so unmute, and I do all that stuff. And now all of a sudden we're into an hour-long program. I'm 7 minutes in, and we haven't done anything. And the interesting part is most people's perception, most people, when they answer that, will say it's the story. They remember the story was the first thing I did. But really, the first thing I did is I established credibility. And when you're trying to grow your business, that is so powerful rather than just rambling for 7 minutes. And why people are starting to reach for their phones and get disengaged. Boom. I couldn't see all your faces, but I was already into a story that was probably making everybody go, well, okay, now I see where we're going. So one was credibility. I gave the second answer away. The second thing I did is I hit with a story, a stat, or a current status. And what that does, folks, this is so powerful. It establishes the main theme. Everybody, I can't see everybody, but if I had a show of hands, the story should be able to tell you exactly where we're going, what the risk is, and what that impact would be. It should establish the main theme of what we're talking, which is a bad virtual influence could cost me business. That's the theme of today, right? Growing it is obviously having a positive impact, that type of thing. It creates authenticity too. So now there might be a few of you out there besides Bob that probably felt sorry for me, right? No, I know he did, you know, just in the fact that, wow, that's a tough blow. And it makes you think that it can happen to you. So what I'm influencing virtually is I'm getting your buy-in. I'm starting with credibility. I'm hitting with a story or a stat. For some of you, like Seth, you were talking earlier on the commercial real estate side, or even on your other business, you know, you can't probably start out with a story every day. It would get a little cheesy, right? I mean, unless there's a point. But a lot of times what people can do in their business is they can start off with a stat that kind of gets everybody's attention. Did you know that there's more people on this world alive than have lived and died in the past? Right? It's a stat. It's a stat that you can throw out that all of a sudden kind of gets, hey, while you're all getting ready, I want to share this with you. Current status is a great way for a lot of you, especially in the financial world that they're in. I don't know if Jenny's on in the HR world, but she probably deals a lot with this, which is really the idea of a current status is, hey, while you're all getting situated here, let me talk a little bit about where we are, what we're going to decide today, and where we're going. This is the current status, and it's a powerful way to start off a speech rather than rambling. You ever have those videos that, or excuse me, listen to a facilitator and they'll say, I've got this PowerPoint here, I'm not going to read it, and then they turn around and they read it, right? How boring is that? So when you start people off, it's just a great way to get them moving. The third thing that I did is then I hit you right away with a Stanford study, which added more third-party credibility to where we're going, with the idea saying that virtual calling, virtual selling, and growing your business is here to stay. And so I hit you with those three things right away. Lastly,
Larry, before you move on, Shane had a question.
Yeah.
I saw his hand go up, but I couldn't catch you.
Yeah, and thank you, Larry. The one thing that in my business, I've got a kind of cold call, if you will, or word of mouth type of stuff, because I'm a one-man show, so to speak. But I was given a phone number from a contact, and I contacted that person, and they didn't understand how I got their number, and it ended up being their personal cell phone number, not their business number. Mm-hmm. I subsequently lost the business even after was allowed to send out a proposal. And I followed up a week later saying, hey, did you have any questions with the proposal, so on and so forth. But I could tell on the phone call that they were irritated that I had their personal cell phone number.
Yeah.
What would be the fix with that?
Yeah, that's always a bit of a challenge. The first fix I'll say this right. First fix is with you. Don't let the fact that happened, that everybody will be that way. And now all of a sudden, gosh, I can't, I'm too shy or, to call cell phone numbers. Cell phone number, if you have an unlisted number and it's out there, you've given somebody the permission to call. The only thing that you can really do, and this works most of the time, when you're in that situation, I always do the famous timeout or call about and just timeout. Shane, I just want to go back to this. I realize I called you on your cell phone. You seem to be a little upset about that. I want to first of all apologize if I've offended you, and I want to know, are we going to be able to move past that? And if Shane, if you go, no, we're not, don't ever call me again, then you just move on to the next prospect. Otherwise, but addressing it is the only thing that you have. Not famously, that's too strong, but I've been in customer meetings where I've just literally called timeout. Like, well, wait a minute, timeout. This doesn't look like this is going in the right direction. Maybe I'm sensing something wrong. And then just calling them out and going from there. That's worked for me many years. I could talk about that stuff for days. Shane, message me. I'm a one-man show too. I'll send you a copy of my book so that you can kind of look through that and stuff. I've got some ideas around developing business and growing and how you use the voicemails and the calls and that type of thing. So you can message me or email me. And then the other thing that we always do on these as I've got third-party credibility, a story, a stat. I've added some type of other credibility, like Stanford would be credible enough. And then I tell people what I'm going to tell them. I tell them what I told them I'm going to tell them, and then I tell them what I told them at the end. It's that redundancy piece. Changing your mode often. Did you notice something? Did you notice that I did something frequently? Did anybody catch how I changed the mode on this facilitation? See it blinking. Polls, questions, discussions, those types of things. Those are all pro tips. You can't talk virtually for 45 minutes and be done. And I got to keep flying here. Here's another. I wish I had more time to do this. Use the PSA approach. You'll notice that I did that. I made a point. I told a story, and then I talked how it applied to you. If you use that mantra in your sales presentations or that flow, you'll move people along. You'll get there. Quick connect ideas, pulled, shared example. I wanted to see if anybody caught this. This was probably the most subtlest thing I did today, but probably created the most influence when you go back and you think about this later on today. And what it was, did you know that I called all of you, or as many as I could, by name?
Yeah.
And you notice that I referenced the business that you're in. So I clearly have done homework before this call, haven't I? I teach a workshop for businesses on sales intelligence, which is the idea of going out and finding out more about your clients and things of that nature. And I quickly did that to find out. Heck, I'll show you. I'll cheat right here. So this on a whiteboard standing right next to my computer is all of your names, the companies, and what you do at the companies, the best that I could tell. And so that way I could tailor this for you, but I also could call you out. And what it does is it subtly creates that rapport. I look on this, I know Bob, I know Sally, I know Kevin and Dan. Outside of that, well, Linda and Alicia, but outside of that, the rest of you, I don't even know. And I was calling you all by name and what you did. So think about that. Do your homework before the call. It's the biggest thing to focus on your influence. Stop sharing when the presentation's done. Here's some quick things, some quick tips. Sally, you can send them the PowerPoint deck if you want, if they want it. But these, you can Google shortcuts, keyboards for Zoom and find all sorts of stuff. No, don't make any excuses. Have your backups. Kick people out if they're distracting. These are all pretty basic things. And then I put in there less slides, but just don't read them, right? No one wants to do that. Sally, I'm going to turn it over to you and Bob. Anybody can ask me questions. But I wanted you to, if you wanted to kind of chime in on what's happening in April.
Sure. I think Bob's going to review that.
Okay.
So at the conclusion of the CARES program, we had the opportunity to kind of move that forward a little bit. We learned that there was a big need in our business community for some further training in some areas. So we did a poll in February of our business community, and we got a tremendous response. We got, I think, almost 80 respondents that kind of gave us some direction in terms of the types of topics that they would like further training in and discussion in. And Larry's always been a very valuable partner in helping us to well, in his name, boil that down into a poignant set of presentations that he's going to visit us in April and conduct. So Larry, if you want to just highlight some of the big stuff on those.
Yeah, so just real quick for these, and you can share them with people that you know. Today was kind of a informal, formal, conversation around virtual and fluent. Where these will differ is these are going to be between 2 to 3.5 hours in length, depending. They'll be in person and virtual. We'll give that option. But all these topics are things that I would charge these are corporate type training. So building leadership influence. These are if you have leaders in your organizations or yourself, sales and strategic planning. The poll said that people want to kind of build up their financial wherewithal, their balance sheet, their income statement for the next crisis. So we're putting that one on. There was a large amount of ask for how do I network? Like how do I go to a chamber event and network and promote my business? And then marketing and selling to your professional service, that is just for people in attorneys, doctors, engineers, architects, bankers, things of that nature. That's what that's for. But these are corporate type trainings that Mesa Chamber is bringing to you. And so I'll be doing that in town here end of April.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, more to come. More to come on that.
We'll have a complete schedule and a registration option open here fairly quickly. There will be a very limited in-person option for that. So if you are interested in being in the room with Larry, you're going to want to respond very quickly to that. Otherwise, there is also a virtual option, and you can join him virtually for that over the 3 days that he's doing those. So,
yeah, absolutely. Other questions around what we covered or sales tips, things of that nature, anything to help you grow? The importance, I see a lot of diversity in the types of businesses on here. So I try to give content that reaches everybody the best I can. But if you have something specific for your business, we've got just a little under 10 minutes left.
So can I just chime in or?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
I just want to engage with you and see. So we basically own shopping centers in the Arizona Loop. That's what we do. And we're trying to find interesting tenants and people to work with. One of our shopping centers is in Wrecker and Maine in Mesa. And how would you suggest kind of going about getting some good quality people to go into our space?
Do you have access to kind of the list in the email? Can you find potential tenants in that regard? Is that hard stuff to do to get the names?
No, I don't. Which one do you mean? The names on this list, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The people that you're going after for potential tenants, the people you want to bring into your properties. Did you know who you kind of would target?
No, for us, it's just a quality business. It could be
Okay.
a lot of different businesses. It could be anything really.
Yeah.
First, we have a Subway. We have a couple of restaurants that would work, and then just inline stuff that it could be a mattress company or really anything.
Yeah. One of the things that I would, if you can acquire the emails, which is not hard to do, the contacts. I mean, you can always find lists of businesses. But I would ask you if I was sitting down with you, what's the target profile of that particular? Is there a kind of what I always call a dream client, the ideal? Is there a theme to that? And once you have that, I think that's where the effectiveness of the videos can come in, because really, what problem does that property solve for that business owner? What is the difference between maybe where they are now? Would be the conversation that I would focus on. Like, this meets your needs right now, but where are your growth plans? And then how does that property that you have answer that either growth plans or expansion plans? What problem does it solve? the thing that I tell most business owners, and it would fit for everybody here, is that we really have to figure out what problem does our product service solve for someone. It's easy, like with Natasha, right? With the fitness piece of it, it's easy to know what that is, but maybe there's more to it. In your world, you've got to be able to answer, look, this is why this property would solve your growth problems. Or to,
Cool. Thank you.
yeah. And feel free to email me too, Seth, if you've got follow-up questions and stuff like that. I'm fine with that.
Thanks, Larry. We'll do.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry,
Other-
I got a question. Most of the business that I would normally acquire was through safety networking seminars and such. Since COVID, obviously all those went bye-bye, and some are virtual and some just got canceled. What would be a suggestion on how to develop those same type of leads outside of, I'm not a good cold caller or cold emailer, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah. So you're saying outside of the normal conferences that you would be attending, is that what you're saying?
Correct, because there's several that happen every year, and I would go to those, and so those have all gone to the wayside, and I'm sure they'll come back, but it's a matter of up until then, you know, because several of them already got canceled this year. Some there was one in August, there was one in July that was going to happen, and those are already been canceled. So
Yeah. So one of the ways that I go, because you're right, like for me, all my speaking events, you know, they were all there one day and then they're not, right? And so how do you do that? Well, your only other option is to do something virtual. And by virtual, it's either something like this or phone calls or the email. Those are all virtual components too, beyond just what we're talking about. And you have to be able to utilize those things, or you're just going to dry up. So where I would probably start, just trying to understand your business a little bit more, is there associations? Most of those associations that you were going to them are probably still there and are probably still doing some type of component. So there's a couple different ways to network. One is just to be on them, you know, like the chamber has network events that are virtual, and you get on there and you get in your rooms, and I meticulously am writing down names and key points that people are saying, so I can go back to Shane. I can message you on LinkedIn and say, hey, I love your comment about X, you know. And so then I'm starting to build my network in that regard. So getting out there and kind of having that virtual component. The other thing is try to position, all of you, try to position yourself with some level of expertise. And in those associations, can you be doing what I'm doing right now? Can you put yourself in that situation where you're thought of as the leader in either the fitness industry, the banking industry, whatever it happens to be, the commercial real estate, whoever, and then you're able to, on those association calls, to give a 5-minute presentation on something. That's a crazy and powerful way to build a network fast. Those are just quick ideas, simple ideas.
thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked about your book, Larry, so I put the link to your book on Amazon and Bob just put a link to some podcasts that we've done with you in the chat room. I also put your email address in for folks who are asking for it. Any other questions while we've got Larry captured here for a couple more minutes?
I have a simple question, if I could. Hang on just a second. My father's talking. Okay, thanks. So it's really hard when people walk in. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Okay, so we were talking about putting a logo somewhere, and my computer doesn't have a processor fast enough to do the background. And so then I have the Lucy hand, which you're right, drives me absolutely batty when people are moving and their heads disappearing. But I'm wondering if anybody knows how to maybe just put your logo like on the screen. Like if you could figure out how to just, like I see Bob's got the Mesa Chamber. Is that on his screensaver, or
that's a virtual background?
That's your virtual background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way to do that where you could actually just, if anybody knows it, I'm sure it's out there. Somebody smarter than me has probably thought about this, but I just wanted to throw it out to the group to see if there was a way to cut and paste the logo like on your camera.
Like, so literally, Alicia, it could be as simple as you could get yourself just a physical little stand and put the logo behind you physically so that it's present. It doesn't have to overwhelm the forefront of your video. So like over your left shoulder, you could have a little stand with the United Way logo, and it would just be present. It would just be there. And it wouldn't have to be digital. It wouldn't have to be in there. And then, you know, you can just move it out of the way once you're done so that, you know, obviously it's not sitting wherever in your home you're doing that. But it also gives you the flexibility to take that with you to other locations. So it's kind of like Larry does with the pull-up banner behind him. So if you notice, he's got that pull-up banner, and obviously the banner is bigger than the frame, but his logo is right above his head, just literally right there. So when you're looking at his head, you're kind of looking at his logo as well. So if you position it right, it can be very unobtrusive, but still very effective in getting the person to know where you're with.
Yeah. So, but Bob's right. But Alicia, you know, I mean, that's here because it's intentional, right? It's intentional so that people see it all throughout. For a long time, I used to, my wife was a photographer. And so we had those big stands, the rack stands, and I'd have the white sheet over. I mean, you can do simple things like that. Keith made up a tablecloth that had my big logo on there, you know, and I used to hang that over that thing, just as simple as that. It just became a pain in the rear to take up and take down because, you know, I'm working out of my house. So you struggle with that a little bit, but I did it for a while until I'm not gonna lie, this brick behind me is not real, you know, so I just went out and got one of those big screen one or those big screen printed ones. I have that up there, and I just leave it like that. Yeah.
Looks legit.
Yeah.
I was just thinking too, Larry, you know how everybody has their names. Sometimes people come in and they have a phone number, you don't know who they are, especially if they're not showing a video. But it's really easy to rename yourself, you know, and have, like, I just changed mine to Mesa Chamber. So, you know, you also kind of plug in your company.
Sally, you're so smart.
Yeah, and I like what Don's done. Don, I think you're in the personal training world. I like behind you, you know, you've got a fitness poster. I mean, that's good enough. I mean, that gives some credibility to what he's trying to do with his business. So I think there's great examples of those. What I would tell you is that virtual image, because it's going to be here to stay, and we all know that we can use videos and things to grow our business and prospect with. Just having something, again, mine's not the best in the world, but it works for me, right? And we're just having that thinking very consciously and intentional about everything that I'm putting out there makes a big difference. So, any other questions?
Larry, actually, I do have one question. If there's somebody in your meeting, you're facilitating the meeting, and there's somebody in your meeting that you need to either, let's say they've gone off track, and you know they're giving you feedback and you need to kind of shut them down, what's the best way to do that protects your brand? Because again, how you do that is going to be a reflection of your brand, right? So what's the best strategy for that?
When somebody takes off on a side note or something like that, Bob, is that kind of what you're thinking? Yeah. Honestly, I have no problem bringing somebody in the line. If you're the facilitator and I'm trying to drive my clients down a discovery or away and someone's taking me off, I think that's the power in sending out an agenda beforehand. Because I simply would say, Bob, I think your insights are incredible today, but it's not on the agenda. We're going to go back to the agenda. And if we have time for that, we'll deal with it then. And then I just move on. I just cut them off and keep moving, because it's out of respect for all the other people that are on the call that you got to think about. Remember, we're not just selling, we're facilitating now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Time for one last question real quick. Anybody?
I just wanted to say, Larry, I think that's really a key piece that I had not thought about in terms of the difference of being a facilitator versus a salesperson, because my natural inclination is to go into a sales mode when I've got people in front of me. But the reality of it is depending upon how your video is going, you may really want to be that facilitator. So I just want to thank you for that. That's a key piece. It's something I'm really going to take away from this in terms of being mindful of. So thank you for that.
But thanks for that comment. And that's where the key and the pauses are. checking more for understanding. Whereas if I'm selling to you face to face, I can see the nods, I can see the hand gestures, I can call the timeout when I'm sensing something. But here, you've got to kind of facilitate and move, thinking about moving your dream client's mind through the selling process in a facilitated manner.
Great. All right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being on the call. I know some of you have asked for the slides from Larry, and we'll have that. We'll also have a copy of the video to send out to you probably by Monday. Yes, Bob. Okay. Larry, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see some of these folks on the sessions that you bring us the end of April.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. It's my honor. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great day. Stay connected to Mesa Chamber social media, email newsletters, Monday morning message, and mesachamber.org to always know what's happening at your Mesa Chamber.